The Dead Lucky, issue number 5 from Image Comics. So I've been very hateful of this series. I mean, I've just pretty much crapped all over every single issue so far. And I stand by those because it has been terrible. But how is this issue? Does this issue get any better? Do my feelings for this series now change because of this issue? Or is this series still crap? Also, we get a appearance by a Radiant Black villain. So that's crossover shared universe whole shtick is finally getting some ammo. But let's jump right into this. So yeah, we start off with a reporter. He's kind of going over what we've heard so far, like what we've already read. With Morrow is a private company, and they basically want to take over San Francisco and quote unquote make it better. But I mean, you know what happens when a big company tries to own a city. It's never for the betterment of the city. Meanwhile, there's a freedom fighter group called the Salvation Gang, and we've seen our main character, Dead Lucky, Bibi, fight both sides in the past. So yeah, it starts off with a dystopian hellscape or futuristic dreamland. The fate of San Francisco may be decided in the next few days. I have an answer for that. It's a dystopian hellscape. As someone who lives not that far from San Francisco, it's a hellscape. Not just in this series, but in real life. San Francisco sucks. California in general sucks. Don't come here. Trust me. But yeah, we have a back and forth between the leader of the Salvation Gang. His name is Gust. Gust, like a gust of wind. And then we have Morrow, obviously the head CEO of Morrow. And we have Bibi. And Bibi is talking to Gus. Basically, in the last issue, Bibi was in the middle of a fight with Gus and the Salvation Group when she's like, hey, we both want the same thing. Let's work together. And so now she had the big brain idea of revealing her identity. So she just goes to the Salvation Gang, who are smart enough to wear masks. Meanwhile, she drops her Dead Lucky appearance, and she's just regular old Bibi. So now they know exactly who she is, which is just really stupid. Like, rule number 1 of being a superhero is be very careful about your secret identity, about who you really are. But yeah, she reveals who she is. She goes to this warehouse where the Salvation Gang is at, and basically they have like 3 giant mechs, Morrow mechs that they've captured, and they want Bibi to use her powers to control it so that they can use it to fight Morrow. And then that's when Shift arrives. So anyone who doesn't remember Shift was the main villain in Radiant Red. He was I'll say he was like a main villain in Radiant Black for multiple issues. He was like the leader of the YouTube gang, that whole arc that I just completely shit on when it came to Radiant Black. Well, I just basically complained about the fact that like Radiant Black has no problem defeating like otherworldly villains, but meanwhile he's getting his ass kicked and struggling against a bunch of YouTubers. But yeah, for some reason the Massiverse seems to have a huge hard-on for Shift as a character because he keeps making appearances in other series. This is 3 so far: Radiant Black, Radiant Red, and now the Dead Lucky. The very first appearance of any other character like outside of the Dead Lucky appearing in this series. I was even going to say that this is the first time any character from the Massiverse has made a crossover appearance, ignoring the supermassive one-shot, obviously, because that whole one-shot was just a big crossover. But actually, that's not the case, because Ari Bell, Dylan's half-sister from Rogue Sun, has made an appearance in Radiant Black. I want to say thanks to Verlicifiant Satire, hopefully I pronounced your name right, for pointing this out to me, because I didn't even realize this. But in the flashes of the future that we see with Radiant Yellow, we see him like in this dystopian Earth, and he's hanging out with this girl. The girl is actually Ari Bell. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until it was brought to my attention. So yeah, that's actually the first time we've had an appearance of a character from one series crossing over into another. Again, ignoring the supermassive one-shot. But this is the first time that a character has actually had a bigger impact on the issue, because Ari Bell's cameos have kind of just been just cameos. Like, she's there, but it hasn't really affected the main story in any way. It's basically just Radiant Yellow, like, here's his glimpses of what the future is going to be, and he's trying to prevent that. So none of that has even come to pass. It also kind of makes me question, why is Ari Bell the only one alive, and how did she end up being involved with Radiant Yellow? Like, how did they end up becoming a team together in this dystopian future? But that's neither here nor there. This is the first time where a villain has made a crossover, and this is the first time, I guess he's an anti-hero now. I think they're trying to prop him up as being the Green Ranger of the series. Like, he starts off as a villain, then he becomes slightly more of an anti-hero, and then, or at least a reluctant ally, and then he's probably going to become an anti-hero, and then he's going to eventually join. I don't know. This is just me theorizing. But this is the first time we've had a character crossover from another series that actually had a big impact on the issue itself. So that was great, because one of my biggest problems with the whole Massiverse is that it's supposed to be a shared universe, but nothing about it seems shared, outside of the fact that they all are tokusatsu series, even though some feel more tokusatsu-ish than others. But yeah, other than that, like, nothing really seems shared. If you were to tell me that Radiant Black and Rogue Sun and the Dead Lucky all happen in the same timeline and in the same universe, I would tell you, prove it. Because nothing really seems to hint at that. In fact, Dead Lucky even more so, because Dead Lucky has a whole like cyberpunk theme going on, but it's supposed to take place at the exact same time that Radiant Black and Rogue Sun takes place. But Radiant Black and Rogue Sun don't really have that cyberpunk sci-fi element. I mean, other than the suits. Obviously, the suits have like a sci-fi element, especially in Radiant Black. But I mean, the city itself doesn't have like robots going around and a bunch of like high-tech surveillance systems and just like other stuff you'll see from a cyberpunk genre, other stuff that you see in the Dead Lucky. The Dead Lucky is like the only one that actually kind of seems like it's in the future, but it's actually in the same timeline. But outside of that, yeah, Shift. He finally makes an appearance here. I never really care for the character. I still don't care for the character here, but I guess it is great that we have something of the Massiverse making, something to show that this is a shared universe. There's a brief fight between Bibi and Shift, and Shift just basically is saying, hey, that was just a demo of my abilities. Like, I wasn't really trying to fight you. And Bibi basically explains her plan. Her plan is that we are going to create a big distraction, a big ruckus, and get all of Morrow to go try to stop that ruckus. Meanwhile, a smaller team is going to go infiltrate the mayor's office and confront the mayor, because the mayor has just handed over power to Morrow. Which, how legally she can do that, I have no idea. Like, so for example, the mayor of San Francisco right now cannot just be like, hey, I'm going to hand over control to Google. Google is now in control of San Francisco. You can't do that. So how the mayor is able to do that here in the series, I don't know. Luckily, they did explain that there's like a bunch of lawsuits happening because of this decision. So at least they're not just completely brushing it under the rug. Where that's going to go, who knows? But that's her plan. Her plan is basically to confront the mayor and try to get actual dirt on Morrow and expose what they really are up to. And then she decides to take a break from that to go meet up with the cop and have sex. And I don't buy this relationship at all. They have barely interacted whatsoever. They've hardly ever shared any words with each other, and they're already like crushing on each other. I mean, I guess like there is such things as like booty calls, one night stands, and stuff like that. But this seems like they're trying to build like a loving relationship. But I just am not buying it. It's just, we didn't really see any build up here. Yeah, it just, I don't know. That just, I was like, all right, whatever. But I don't know. This just kind of feels like you're trying to appease a certain group. Like, this is just like you're trying to get good PR from like the established media. I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just saying that's what it feels like. And the reason I say that is because, yeah, like, this just kind of is like, oh, okay, yeah, BB's gay now. I mean, there's already hints that she was bisexual previously. But yeah, her previous relationships with guys. Now all of a sudden she meets this black cop and she has the hots for her. And now they're going to have sex even though they've had very, very little interaction with each other whatsoever. I mean, it's at the point where I don't even remember this cop's name. That's how little we've like dealt with her and her interaction with Bibi. So yeah, this seemed kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. But yeah, basically, later that night, before they can kick off their plan, Morrow ends up attacking them, and it turns out that Gus got way too nervous. He freaked out and thought that he's gotten himself in over his head, and so he made a deal with Morrow that, hey, I'll give you the location of where the Dead Lucky is going to be at, and in return, you let the Salvation Gang free. And Morrow's like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to arrest all of you. And so we have a big showdown where Ship, surprisingly, does not betray Bibi, at least not yet, and fights alongside her to take out Morrow. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil like how that fight goes or anything like that. But I'll say this issue has been better than the previous stuff. Like the previous issues, I'll give like D minus D. Like I just didn't give a crap about any of it. This issue, I will give a C. The fight scenes were good. I like that. I like the fact that, hey, we're finally like doing something to show that this is a shared universe, even if it is introducing a crappy character like Shift. Outside of that, I don't like Bibi as a character overall. This is supposed to be a character suffering from PTSD. I'm not buying that. There's nothing about her that screams PTSD. There's nothing interesting about her character. She's not, I don't know, she's not very, I don't want to say likable. I guess I'll say likable. She's not very likable. She's not hateable, but she's just plain. She's just like a cardboard. Like she's just there. There's nothing interesting for me to hang on to want to see her succeed or see her struggles or anything like that. She's just a very boring, plain character, very forgettable character. I don't care about her relationship with this cop. If you had done more to build it up, then I would have. And before anyone tries to get on my case, this isn't a lesbian thing. Like I've read plenty of Yuri manga series and have enjoyed them. Tamen Degushin, I think that's what's pronounced. Before China and the CCP anti-LGBTQ rules got involved, was an awesome Yuri series. Now it's just kind of a comedy series without the romance, unfortunately. Kasi-san, I freaking love Kasi-san. I enjoyed Citrus. Like Yuri is fine. Like I don't mind Yuri. I don't mind lesbian characters and lesbian romance in my stories. Just write it well. Write it in a believable way. Don't do what Marvel has been doing the past few years, where it's like, oh, here's two females, they love each other now. Why? Well, because they're two females and they're lesbians, so they have to love each other, right? Because that's how it works. If you're a lesbian and you meet another lesbian, you're automatically in love. That's how it works in comic books nowadays. Oh, you're gay and he's gay? Well, you guys must be in love. You got to hook up now. It's like, that's not how it works. But yeah, that's kind of how it feels here. It's like, oh, Bibi is, I guess, bisexual now. And this cop, I guess, is gay, even though, like, not ever really hinted at. Well, I guess a little bit, kind of not really hinted, but sort of. I don't know. So because you two are gay and in the same series, well, you have to be romantically involved now. That's how it feels. So it's not working for me. So I guess, yeah, the positives of this series, the action, the fact that we get something shared between the shared universe. We have Shift, who appeared in Radiant Black, appearing in this series. Great. The negatives. Bibi still a terrible character. This relationship is still just really boring and just not doing anything for me. It's not interesting. It doesn't seem believable. And just, yeah, Bibi in general is just a very plain, boring character. Like, there's nothing interesting about her outside of her powers, which we haven't fully explained yet. But her personality is just weak. Not strong enough to carry an entire series. This series might be better. Well, it would actually be better if it had a better writer. But if it had another character, another character to lead the franchise, or if you had just written this character in a different way. Like, here's the thing. A character coming back from a war overseas, suffering from PTSD and survivor's guilt after watching all of their soldiers die. And not only, like, were these, like, your fellow comrades, but you were the one in charge of them. Like, you were the leader. They were taking your orders, and they died. So there can be, like, even more survivor's guilt. Like, if I could have done something better, I could have saved my people. Instead, like, I led them to destruction. I led them to their death. And now I come back to my home to see it being taken over by this mega corporation. And my city is now a dystopian hellhole. But thankfully, I have these magical powers that I somehow got. I don't know how exactly I got them. I don't know exactly how they work, but let's find out. Let's find out with the reader. Let's find out how these powers work. Let's try to use these powers to do good. Maybe saving my city can help alleviate some of this survivor's guilt, some of the pain that I'm feeling. Like, that could be a very interesting character. And we've seen something like that before. I've mentioned this in the previous review. Ragman. The Ragman Rebirth did that exact same story. So the Dead Lucky is not doing anything new. It's telling a story that's already been told, and it's telling a story that's been told way better. But again, every story has been told before. It's just how you tell it. So you can still do the same, survivor's guilt, all that stuff. And it can be interesting. It can be great. But it's not, because just the way this character has been portrayed so far is just boring. There's nothing here. And that's the biggest fault with the Massiverse. It's just boring characters. I'll say Radiant Black has been the best so far, like Marshall. Once Marshall took over the powers, it got better. Nathan was a boring ass character though, and he's still a boring character. Dylan from Rogue Sun is a boring, unlikable character. Bibi is a boring, I don't want to say unlikable, but just boring, forgettable character. And that's the problem with this Massiverse so far. Just boring characters. Like, it's great premises that are just executed so poorly. And this series doesn't do anything to alleviate that. BB is still boring. The action scenes are good. Like, I enjoyed them. So good for that. But other than that, like, that's the only real saving grace, is the fact that we get a Radiant Black character showing up and we get some good fight scenes. Everything else is just terrible. So, I don't know. Hopefully it will start improving some more. You know what? After that rant, I think I'm going to change my C grade to a C-. It's sub-average, just slightly below average. So it's ticking up. I mean, a C- is better than a D-. So there's that. But other than that, like, this series just needs a lot of work. And I don't see it happening, because I don't know what it's like behind the scenes, but just as a reader, and from what I'm getting at from reading the different series, whoever's editing the Massiverse is failing spectacularly. Like, they're just sleeping on the job, because there's so many issues that editing could easily fix and hasn't for any series. Radiant Black, Radiant Red, Radiant Pink, Rogue Sun, The Dead Lucky. So many problems that could be fixed with editing, and they haven't. And I just don't think that they will be. So I have no idea if this series is going to get any better. So far, its best is a C-. So there you go. Anyways, I'm just kind of rambling at this point. Yeah, so in regards to the answer I had, is this better? Yes, but not by much. I mean, it went from a D- to start with, a D for the most part, to now being a C-. So it's shown some improvement, but it's still a sub-average, kind of terrible series. I still wouldn't really recommend this series. Even for Tokusatsu fans, I wouldn't recommend it. Not at this point in time. But there you go. Dead Lucky issue number 5 from Image Comics. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. So what did you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe. Hit that bell for a notification. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you did enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far. And I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see. And I hope to see you guys next time. Later.